desert outpost. We're craving more. With every sweet stride, we will arrive. We're opening the door. So here's to the grind. We'll tear it down. There's nothing that can never do to take down the crowd. And we will pop them down and make drum sound. There's something inside for us that's sticking around. Now watch the ice do. We're fighting death. Yeah, we're fighting death. We're fighting death. We're fighting death.
Hello, governors. Welcome to the Supreme Strife quarterfinal official watch party. I'm your host, Plot Gaming caster and content creator, and casting alongside me are my fellow casters and content creators, Dirty Dan and Brian Koo. How's it going, guys?
What's going on, Plato? Glad to be back with you and with Brian. Hello, Brian.
Hello, Dan. I'm glad we're greeting each other this week.
We are now in the quarterfinal of the inaugural Supreme Strife, meaning that these teams are in the top 32 teams thus far, making it through last week's preliminary stage. However, to advance, they will need to make it yet again to within the top 4 of the groups to make it to next week's semifinals. For those that did not watch last week, Supreme Strife is kind of this new game mode. It's like a fusion between KVK and Ark of Osiris, and it was really entertaining to watch. I guess we could start off with Brian. What were your initial thoughts watching Supreme Strife last week?
Otto, I think it definitely is a game mode with a lot of potential. I think what is most interesting and maybe the most compelling and sort of skill-based part of this is that your trades really do matter, and you really do run out of troops at some point in the 4-hour-long match. And so that's a big difference than a lot of these players are used to in KVK. And it means a couple things. It means, number one, we're going to get a sense over these next few weeks, like how focused people are going to be on trades versus on, territory. And then also that how much power you have is like a really big deal. Having more power just means that you have more troops, you have more ability to get worn down before you start having to, before you just run out of stuff. Like you can't heal in this game mode, and so you just run out and can't play anymore. So I think that's the most interesting thing. And this week I just want to see like more competitive matches to see those trades really manifest.
Yeah, last week it was a preliminary stage, so the matches were not as close. This week we have some pretty interesting matches. We actually have 3 matches to watch out for: Group B, Group C, and Group D. We could go ahead and look at some of these groups here. We could see that we have Group B here. It'll be ones, LLN, 007, IN, ZMEN, 489, WWE, and 1. When we have Group C, we have Pink, DK18, GOT, Kong, OWR, OG, 1316, and MTR. And then in Group D, we have AO77, DS, Vita, CLK, POV, 60GT, ASMR, and 2715. So I'll go ahead and go back to you, Dirty Dan. What matchup are you looking forward to the most?
Well, I think based on some of these, some of the homework and details that you provided for us, I'm really excited to look at this Group B. It's going to be a 1v1s in the corner, and then as they approach the middle, it's going to turn into a free-for-all. So anytime we have free-for-all, titled onto any kind of KVK, it always gets extremely messy. There's definitely going to be some backdoor deals or something of the sort where, there's going to be like a team up or a 2v1 at some point and another. I mean, you're fighting so close to each other, territory wise. And I just think it really makes for a good storyline to be developing. So Group B is going to be that one that I'm going to be really interested to keep an eye on.
Group B will be really interesting indeed. Again, free-for-alls usually don't work out, but I believe the Diplo that we've been told is that it'll be a free-for-all in the corners, where these teams within the corners will be fighting against each other, and then the free-for-all will be for that Supreme Spire in the middle. Brian, from week 1 to week 2, what's going to be the biggest change, do you think, within these teams? Because I believe a lot of these teams were able to pick up some power, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, everybody was able to pick up 5 players from teams that have been eliminated, and that can, and what we saw from teams is a pretty big gap between how little power was gained by the sort of worst recruiters versus how much power was gained by the most. The team that recruited the most is 1, and they are in Group B. They're one of those Group Bs that's going to be doing the 1v1s at the beginning. They were already one of the biggest teams, but they added 1.5 billion power from just 5 recruits. So that means that their recruits are averaging 300 million power each. On the other hand, at the bottom end is Ducky Soul's DS, another team that did very well last week. They only gained 640 million power from their 5 recruits. So they're still recruiting 5 players over 100 million power, but that's a very big difference than recruiting players who have over 300 million power. We saw a few teams really gain a lot of power. 2 of them were very big, GT and 1, but then also we saw 2 smaller teams, CLK and 007, gain about 1.3 billion power each too.
All right, let us get into the game here. It's pretty funny that you talk about 1, you talk about CLK, you talk about 007. A lot of these teams are going to be teams that we're going to be able to watch. There was a Group A match, which was GV77 in that group, but that was at 10 UTC, I believe, GV77. And we'll go ahead and take a look at the results of that at the end of this match as well. But this is Group B. So you can see Group B, there's LLN, there's Ones. These 2 are going to be fighting in this bottom top left corner. It'll be 1 and WWE fighting in this top right corner. It'll be 489 and Z-Men fighting in this bottom right corner. And then it'll be IN versus 007 in this bottom left corner. I guess I could go over to you, Brian. What kind of strategies did you see last week that you liked? And what would you like to see from some of these top teams?
Strategies that we saw last week, we certainly saw fast building. We saw the stronger teams push their flags right into the enemy and create some very fast, some fast touch points. What I would like to see this week is a more emphasis on like garrisons and rallies. Like let's see if one of these teams really does attack the fortifications of the other team. What happened last week was people just kind of like build past each other or build alongside each other. I'd like to see, especially in some of these 1v1s that quite frankly are a little bit one-sided. I mean, IN against 007 is a bit of a one-sided thing. 489 against Z-Men is also one-sided. We're looking at some of the top kingdoms in the game on this map. I'd like to see them, I don't know, stretch their legs a little bit and work some things out rather than just like blow right past the enemy in the most like simplistic way possible.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I actually didn't see any Z-Men troops, so perhaps going to be a little bit of a no-show there. But we could see that there's a lot.
I see one guy.
I saw one guy as well. You can see a bunch of IN though. They are teleported up, and then there are no people for 007 on this side either. So perhaps forfeiting their spots here. That's a good thing about.
I see a few from 007, but
Okay,
surprising that because they recruited a lot. They recruited a lot of people. So
perhaps not going for that straight up approach. Perhaps trying to build up elsewhere on the map. You can see a couple people from 007. But I think one of the things that'll be interesting is, I guess that's why we have so many maps that we could watch. This is why we're streaming at 18 UTC instead of 10 today. Is because we have 3 maps that we could watch. But yeah, we'll be watching this map A. We'll be watching map B and map C. I mean map B, map C, and map D rather, as we go along here. Hey Dan, do you have any final notes within the last 5 seconds before these gates drop?
No, I'm just excited to see if we, kind of to Brian's point, if we see anything shape out a little bit differently. I know, I mean, hey, who knows? Maybe even Z-Men, they're pulling a fast one and they're trying to make it look like they're not coming into it and they're going to come in late. Like, who knows? So, still a very fresh, brand new gameplay style for all of us, and we're all still kind of learning and adapting strategies. So, let's see if anyone brings something new to the table this week.
We can see that the initial flags have been placed. There are some flags from 007, so it looks like they're going to be going towards the top side here, rather. So 007 are here, it's just that they're on the top right of their map rather than going straight towards IN. Again, this is the free-for-all map, I believe. This is map B.
The 1v1 map. Yeah,
the 1v1 map. Into
an
free-for-all.
FFA.
Yeah.
And so, like, the key for everybody, what they're focused on here is just getting to that first holy site, the Supreme Circle. Because if you can get to that Supreme Circle and surround it with some flags, then you do have a really good chance to advance on this map. With these allies in particular, where it's an FFA in the middle, if you can just hold on to your circle, then you're probably going to advance. You know, because that means you won the 1v1.
It looks like there's some initial fights here. We're going to go watch this top left corner. It is LLN versus Ones. And now we have to keep in mind, this is going to be all these players. They now have 1 week of experience. They played last week. Let's see if there's anything that's going to be different. Because I believe last week, a lot of people were excited. You know, they wanted to go straight in. Perhaps zeroing themselves a little bit too early. And now, as you said, the trades really do matter, because for those that don't know, in this Supreme Strife mode, there's no hospital. You don't take any severely wounded, but rather the severely wounded you would take turn into dead. So if you take a really bad trade, or it's a really bad report on the open field, that's going to be minus troops for the rest of the Supreme Strife. So you really want to make sure that you trade pretty positively here.
One of the things I wonder about is, you know, generally in KVK, the policy is that you just like fight until you're dead, fight until you sad face. I wonder if that's the right thing to do in Supreme Strife, right? I mean, if you're at red health, if you're at like 10% health, don't you take such a bad trade on that final 10%? That it's worth it to just walk home instead? What do you guys think?
I think there's like, it's kind of a mix, right? Where it depends, I guess it depends how much power you are, right? If you have enough power to where, you know, you're 250 million power, the thing that matters the most is tempo, especially within the flags. For example, if you're building a flag, or I guess these fights here are kind of inconsequential because there isn't really too much to gain outside of like building some flags and perhaps trying to cut off some territory. I think the main flag lines that'll be important is the flags towards the circle. But it's really interesting because I believe there's also a bundle in this KVK where if you, or in this mode rather, where if you buy it, you instantly get to teleport home when you sad face. So it's kind of like you have to leverage. Is it worth sad facing now, or should we get the better trades?
Hey guys, I just have an update on the west side of this map. It looks like some shenanigans are already starting to go down. WWD, who is, I guess, supposed to be fighting one, it was supposed to be corner matchups. They are now opting to go to 489 side. At least that's where their murder ball is lining up now. So we're already having some breaking in the shenanigans in terms of if this thing is going to be corner versus corner, free for all in the middle. So already getting a little bit of a switch up here within the first 5 minutes of this Group B matchup here.
Wow, this is I mean, we've been told that it's going to be a 1v1 for the corner structures, but I guess because 489 they should have their circle pretty much uncontested because of the no-show from Z-Men.
Yeah.
It'll be really interesting to see what they choose to do here. It looks like there is going to be a touch point here, 489 and WWE. There, and just be sure to keep us updated there.
Yes, sir.
I mean, that's an interesting one because, one is not like an ally of 489 in this situation, right? One was just in their own 1v1 against WWE, and now WWE goes to fight 489 instead. What does one decide to do in this situation? They're just the only natural allies on this map are IN and 489 because they're allies in the upcoming very big KVK. But one is just a mixed group of many kingdoms, and if anything, they probably are rooting for WWE to advance rather than 489.
Some shenanigans are already happening. I mean, the thing that's interesting is KVK. The thing that's interesting about KVK is Diplo is always, a mystery, but usually it's settled by the start of KVK. It's only 4 hours long, so usually in KVKs you have your whole alliance interests like within your heart, and you want what's best for your alliance, and you want your side to win. Here, you just want to make it to the top 4. That's all that matters. Top 4 is what you're gunning for. So sometimes you might just do what's best for your pact rather than what's best for the alliances that you have on the map.
Yep. And the other thing about diplomacy is, like when you do diplomacy in KVK, you are really speaking for your whole kingdom. You're representing your whole kingdom. But you look at some of these teams here, you look at like a team like One, for example, and they've got an R5 from, I think it's maybe 1875. No, it's, I think from 2648. They've got an R5 from 2648. And then in their R4 list, they've got people from like 6 different kingdoms and some very big kingdoms. And, when these things happen in the heat of the moment, it could be some random R4 who's like, hey, let's do this. Let's like sit out and then mess with 489 2 hours into this. It could be some R4 who says that and everybody goes with it. And then it's like, who do you blame when it's over? Like, who do you say, we need to get revenge against? Who do you call the treacherous person? It's like, it's just some guy on Voice who said something and we thought it was a good idea,
That is true. A lot of these teams, I mean, there's a lot of teams that are kingdom based or that know each other pretty well, but there are some teams that are just, a bunch of players that came together and wanted to play Supreme Strife, and it's like, oh, we were high powered, so I guess we'll make a team. I think the longer and the more we go into this Supreme Strife, the more the organization will matter, right? Where you can't just brute force people, you can't just do this and that, because at the end of the day, when we're in the quarterfinals, when we get into the semifinals and the finals, everyone should have enough power or should have enough resources to just, go all out throughout the 4 hours. What will be the difference, though, will be the shot calling, the playmaking, and the decision making, and the trust between the players.
Yeah, I'm just looking at one of the flags that One's building here. The yellow team in the top, they had like 3 people go into their flag. Like, it's a new flag. They put like 3 people in there. They got 2.5 minutes still to go on this thing because the flag's not full. Yeah, I really think that like the teams that can like really enforce discipline on their players are going to have a really big advantage in this. And I think in that sense, the organization and like the One Kingdom teams are going to have an advantage just because they have people that everyone will actually listen to.
Mm-hmm. A clear chain of command. But we'll have to see. This map is turning out to be very different from what we expected. The 1v1 in the corners is just turning into mayhem on the sides here, specifically LLN and 007 here.
How about this flag line for Ones? Look at what Ones is doing with their flags. They're building like a giant square.
Yeah.
Because you have unlimited flags that you can build.
It is.
So I was criticizing the One. I was criticizing that only like three people went in.
Uh-oh. Mic check. Is everyone good? I'm by myself. I'm just gonna keep casting by myself. Hello, mic check. Oh no. But yeah, it is pretty interesting that this whole line of 1 flags here is... Because usually you want to focus on 1 flag and you build up that flag as fast as possible. These guys are kind of building a whole, like, territory. Just building it all out, all together. Which is pretty impressive. If they're able to build it all out at the same time, it'll be pretty impressive. But if not, then it could actually stunt their growth and their flag line towards that main structure. Are you guys back?
I'm here now, yeah.
What is going on today?
I assume I can be heard. Somebody in chat said that they could only hear Plato, but I assume that they're able to hear me.
Yeah, that happened right before when you were gone, Brian, when we were getting set up. The Discord was acting a little funny, so we might be having that issue throughout a little bit here. Hopefully Discord cleans up their act.
Yeah, this is a
Okay.
bit of a Discord problem, but it is all good. Your point was taken, though. I mean, I will say that they do have 1 flag line ahead compared to all the other ones, but as you're saying, like, you kind of want to focus your builders into that 1 flag. Make sure that 1 flag line is getting built as fast as possible towards the circle, towards the spire, perhaps. But at the end of the day, it does look like they are kind of ahead of LLN at the moment, but LLN is also getting, pushed on this bottom side as well. So
It doesn't look like LLN is really trying to flag towards the circle that hard,
Mm-hmm.
They, I mean, they've got a flag. Yeah, I mean, I guess they're taking, like, there surely there was a faster route for LLN to get to the circle than the routes they took on the corners of their start zone here. I feel like they could have just built directly to the flag, to the circle, but hey.
that is true. Just
Well,
like a
I'm
direct
surprised.
line drive from their home base to the circle.
Yeah, I'm surprised we're not seeing more of that. We keep seeing these kingdoms or these teams trying to, like, bunch up right onto the corner and, like, go, like, insta fight, but, like, you do have some time to like establish a fair amount of good territory before you really go in for the full engage. So maybe it's something along the lines of, they're not super confident, or they're just kind of playing for fun in that, right? But yeah, it's very interesting to see that we're not seeing a little bit more of, like, straight shots going to the circle and trying to establish a little bit more territory before engaging.
We also have to say here in the top left corner that 007 is also burning LLN's flags. LLN is essentially fighting a 2v1 right now. Like, they're not fighting hard at the south part, but they are getting burned by 007, which I'm not sure what 007 expects to accomplish by being up there. But I mean, the 1v1, the isolated 1v1s have, like, already fallen apart here.
I think perhaps the thought process of 007 is, hey, versus IN, these guys are a really strong team. I don't know if he could win the 1v1. Perhaps we could try to steal the top left circle and make it through that way. But yeah, it's pretty interesting to see the Diplo breaking down in this situation where, and this is what we're talking about. Everyone kind of has their own interests at heart. It's like, all right, we just got to do what we got to do to make it past, to make it through to the next stage. And may that be, dodging our 1v1 opponent and, going 1v2 against LLN. I guess that's going to be the plan for 007, to see how many points it could scrape up with that top left circle.
Yeah, I mean, they're fighting a little bit on the bottom. They're fighting a little bit against IN as well. But yeah, I mean, we said that the diplomacy was set, but at the same time, you have to look at it and be like, okay, IN, 489, and 1 are all super strong. And maybe they just said, let's do 1v1s, and the rest of the teams were sort of like, well, I guess that's the Diplo,
Yep. Yeah. It's like, how much are you really going to combat that? Because if they really wanted to, they can just say, like, all right, well, if you guys don't agree to these terms, then we'll just gang up 3v all, and, we'll do that. Especially now with Z-Men out of the picture. Like, they could easily take the 1v1s all over and just define the map however they want, So the other team's definitely kind of at the mercy of the stronger opponents.
We're going to go ahead and take a look at 489 as well. They are attacking WWE, WWE getting pushed back on their side. And it looks like one is actually going to be relatively uncontested on that top right side. So, I mean, there's some pretty clear winners that are actually, making way here in this side of the map.
Yeah, absolutely. Big fight with WWE and 489 as well. It's all in the middle, right? The packs that are on the sides are essentially, we're not supposed to be fighting each other, but in both cases they are fighting each other.
Yeah, these two packs, WWE, 489, and then of course 007 and LLN are fighting each other. Meanwhile, they're supposed to be fighting this in the top right and left corner. But
looks like 49 did just deny a flag for WWE and then just put their own flag right in that exact spot. So an early win here for 489 against a team they weren't even supposed to be fighting. You see that flag right there on the left. Yeah. That was a WWE flag, but got swarmed down, and that's that.
I think the flag wars are kind of the most interesting part of this map. You know, it kind of mixes the hype of a KVK opening as well as the strategy of an Ark of Osiris, where you kind of have to build up your territory, build up your flags. And I think last week is when we saw 60GT and another team just go back and forth in the same flag spot, swarming each other's flags over and over again. Because we have to keep in mind, as you were saying, Brian, there is no cost to put down these flags. There's no cost on, so you can put down as many flags as you want. So they're just insta swarming the flag, putting down a flag, insta swarming the flag, putting down the flag on top of a murder ball. And I believe there are like 6 or 7 flags that are placed in the same area. So it is going to be a tooth and nail battle for territory in these upcoming fights here. But it does look like, at least for now, this WWE flag should be relatively safe, with only 4 seconds being the difference between the 489 flag building and their flag. I think we should go ahead and take a look at the other groups. So this group, we could see it shaping out. One is free. 489 is winning against WWE. They also have a free circle, and it looks like IN as well as 007 will be fighting for the circle, but IN does have the teleported territory advantage, and ones in this top left will have the advantage going towards the Supreme Circle with one more flag to go until they touch that. But let's go ahead and take a look at Group C here. Here we go, Supreme Strife, matches, Group C. Again, this is Pink, DK18, GOT, Kong, OWR, OG, 1316, and MTR. Dirty Dan, what's the rundown of Group C right now?
All right, so a little status update here for Group C. We have Pink, DK18, MTR, and OG allied together versus OWR. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, OWR, Kong, 1316, and GOT. The main bit of action right now is definitely going down by OWR and OG, and then some fighting going on for against DK18 and GOT. I think Pink and MTR, they're not going to be really engaged in this fight since they're all the way up top. And 1316 doesn't look to be coming out on that side and really looking to kind of press up against OG to assist in a 2v1. So OWR and 1316 trying to take on OG right.
Okay, that is the rundown from Dirty Dan.
Is just about a flag away. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, it just cut off for a second. What's about a flag away?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay.
We have... Okay, so the main fights Dirty Dan was saying is we have OWR and OG. They are building towards this 1v1 down here by the Supreme Circle in the bottom right rather. And then there is a fight between DK18 and GOT. where DK18 looks like they're actually building pretty well towards this Supreme Circle, but because GOT and Kong, they kind of have territory advantage, they should be able to secure and perhaps cut off the advance of DK18. This ally situation though is very peculiar in terms of its situation, where it's DK18 and GOT versus each other. It's OWR and OG versus each other. Kong is kind of like, they don't really have a 1v1 opponent. They're just kind of helping GOT against DK18. So it's pretty interesting to see. And then same thing with Pink. Pink doesn't really have a 1v1 opponent either, because DK18 is allied with Pink as well as MTR, and then 13-16 kind of by themselves in this corner, I believe.
I think what they've done here is structured a pretty good matchup, honestly. I think maybe you would say that the OWR 13-16 team is the favorite here, but because of where the allies are situated, it makes for an interesting map where the underdog team does have control of the top side of the map. And the question is, can the favored team dominate the middle so much that they advance more than two of their teams, right? Because as it is, they're only really going to advance a couple teams who control the circles at the bottom. And so even if this map is not completely 100% fair, the underdog team has the chance to advance one or two packs. And that's going to make it, I think, probably the most interesting map we've got today.
That is true, because you could see that MTR is actually fighting 13-16. The open field down here that's protecting the OG flags is actually MTR. They just literally surrounding all the 13-16 flags.
Does 13-16 not have people on this map? Why am I not seeing their players?
I believe 13-16 is also in a KVK,
Yeah.
if I remember correctly. So perhaps that being a difference. I saw C-Will stream some KVK fighting. There's not that many 13-16 players here. And that kind of, remember, we were having this debate the first week where it's like, what do you prioritize? You prioritize the KVK over Supreme Strife. There's going to be one of those game modes where, same thing with Ark of Osiris sometimes, or Osiris League, is like, if you're in KVK, you might have to compromise either KVK or Supreme Strife. Looks like 13-16 this time saying, okay, we got to focus up on KVK.
Yeah, pretty interesting. They are still locked in a very tight battle in Zone 5 of Heroic Anthem. They're going up against a number of kingdoms, including DS, the kingdom that is also in Supreme Strife, Ducky Slayers. They're just going head-to-head with each other in KVK. I'm watching them right now. They're burning each other's flags. There's huge balls from both teams. So yeah, it does look like 13-16 has perhaps sacked, to use one of Plato's great words that he coined. Looks like they've sacked the Supreme Strife here in favor of KVK. And I think that makes this Group C map not any less interesting.
I'm looking ahead because you did mention DS. I just jumped over to Group D. DS is fighting here, and they're a decent amount of presence as well. They're not looking too advantageous for them right now, but there's a lot more players. They have like their whole team that showed up for the Supreme Strife, as opposed to how 13-16 decided to kind of sack it. So just a quick update there from Group D and DS.
We saw that Kong got the first capture of this structure, which is to be expected because they have the territory advantage. Although you can see DK18 bring the full Merball down towards the Supreme Circle. Brian, what were you going to say?
No, I was just going to say that, DS is allied with GT on their map. And so that's like a really good reason for them to put a decent effort into Strife. The thing we've got to think about with 13-16 not playing this map is that they are allied with OWR, which is like a pretty major kingdom and a pretty major team here. So if 13-16 is going to no-show on them, that really does put OWR in a tough position on this map, as well as Kong.
Kong, OWR, both very, very strong showings within that first week of Supreme Strife, now essentially playing a 3v4, it will be pretty challenging for those two teams. I'm curious as to if this was, you know, communicated to them beforehand, or if this was just like a same day, oh, there, it looks like it's they're not going to be here. But either way, there is going to be an intense fight for this bottom side of the map. As you were talking about, because 1316 didn't show, the top side of the map will be free for the DK18, Pink, MTR, as well as the OG side. Now, the thing that's going to be tough for Kong as well as OWR is that they have to make it within the top 4. But to make it within the top 4, that Supreme, we've seen that Supreme Spire really make a difference, where even if you're winning the 1v1 in this bottom corner, bottom left corner, even if Kong, for example, were to capture this Supreme Circle for the rest of the game, the double points that you get from that Supreme Spire might just push a team like DK18, which might not have a circle, but have the Spire. It might just push them to the top 4 regardless of them having a circle or not.
Yeah, they're definitely in some trouble here. This was the fairest looking map, you know, before 1316 dropped out. And the thing about OWR and Kong is they just don't have more power than the teams they're playing against. OWR is like much better known than these pickup teams like Pink and MTR, but they're not more power. They don't have more power. In fact, the teams that have the most power are actually OG and Pink.
And those two teams are allied together. And the thing about Pink as well is that they have a completely free area here. So it's not like they're losing troops. We're talking about how important power is. Power is not only power is also the amount of players you have, right? Where if you have an extra team worth of players, that's going to be an extra team worth of power that you could throw around. So it'll be really interesting to see how DK18 right now taking the brunt of the fight. But then I wouldn't be surprised if Pink continue to flag down and be that second wind towards this circle here.
Pretty interesting looking at Pink. The R5 of Pink is the YouTuber Grey Worm, a player who's sort of been in and out of Rise of Kingdoms over the last several years, but he's got Grey Worm famously saved up all his stuff, and so he's got 135 million power, which makes him very suitable for Strife. And you've got some players, the Millers are on this team. Renana is the R5 of 2650, a kingdom I've fought against in the past, and who I believe is also in that very big KVK with 2377, etc. So an interesting pickup team here in Pink. Not necessarily the strongest team you've ever seen, but they have got like a really good situation here to potentially make it to the semifinals.
We see that this fight between OG and OWR looks to be right now in OG's favor, especially with MTR walking down here. MTR, again, the team that was supposed to have that 1v1 against 1316. Now it looks like they will be able to kind of delay and deny the circle from OWR, which is going to be bad news bears for OWR. You could see that the open field between OG and OWR, it kind of looks like OG, regardless, are kind of pushing into OWR's territory. And this is just going to be pretty tough for OWR to overcome. It does look like they will have a touch point, at least on the left side. There's one flag, and then they'll have another flag that will be built. But it looks like, at least from what I'm seeing, OG should have first occupation and will be supported by MTR.
Yeah, OG is very, very deep in OWR territory at this point. Not exactly what we expected to see here with OG just pressuring OWR. Like the way they built was they were just able to pressure OWR right from the start here. And they're burning some of the flags that are just right next to the OWR start zone. So kind of a nasty spot for OWR, and you wonder if they can turn this into a situation where they play defense and just get really good trades and maybe, you know, outlast their opponents. I'm not really sure exactly what they're trying to do here, but they're gonna have to step it up, I think.
It is going to be tough, though. They are in a 1v2 or in a 1 because of MTR just coming through, denying the builds. You can see MTR. They see exactly where OWR want to build, and they're going to try to deny the builders here. The flag is going to build in 10 seconds. They got a bunch of people targeting the builders, and they also have the Murray ball on top of where they would want to build the flag. This is Supreme Strife, though, so the map is completely flat. There is going to be a lot of flag spots. It could, for example, flag on this side. It could flag here. So it's going to be impossible for them to cover every single flag location, but it will be hard for them to get the marches in the flag regardless. This map is looking pretty dire for the OWR Kong and GOT side, but you could even see that right now. There is a flag from DK18 that is about to be touching the bottom side circle, their most secure circle, the bottom left. And this flag is relatively uncontested. It looks like they're doing pretty well here with the support from Pink on the top right side.
Yeah, you know, Kong was in a similar situation last week. Kong was definitely the underdog team. They did get the circle early. And actually, last week they were in like a 1v1v1 where 3 packs were all fighting each other at the same circle. But ultimately, Kong was closest to that spot, and so they held the circle the whole time to advance to the next round as, you know, the losing team. They were the only losing team to advance to this next phase, and they are just running up against it really hard again here. You almost wonder if like OWR should build over to Kong, and they should combine forces to try to like hold one circle.
That is true. They could probably hold one circle if they combine all their forces. The only thing is, even if they hold that circle, it doesn't necessarily mean they'll make it through because of the amount of points Supreme Spire will take. For example, if OG takes this circle, if MTR takes this circle, and Pink takes this circle, and then DK18 is able to take the Supreme Spire. It looks like in this case, DK18 will take the circle, Pink will take the Spire. All these teams should advance regardless if Kong or OWR or GOTS hold the circle, because the Supreme Spire is going to be that main point of contention that gives double the amount of points as a circle. So you could kind of just give the Supreme Spire to whoever has less points than Kong, and they should still be able to make it through and make it to that top 4.
Yeah, I think one thing that I was not factoring in is that GOT is an ally of Kong. And so in some ways, DK18 really has no business. Well, it's a 2v2, right? It's a 2v2. Kong and GOTS are like very close to this location. Pink and DK18 are further away. So in that sense, DK18 like really should not be allowed to flag right next to the circle here. But, you know, their team just seems to probably have better morale at this point. But, you know, it is on GOT and Kong to work together to defend this circle. And again, I think maybe that's why I think OWR should probably build over here and have it like be all 3 of them defending this one circle. But like you say, that does open up the spire in the middle.
I will say, this is pretty impressive from DK18. The fact that they're able to flag down here to get a flag to touch the circle when they're literally on the opposite side of the map. GOT has way more... They're way closer to the circle than DK18 is. But DK18 were still able to flag faster than GOT. And now they're going to be contesting this circle. There's 4 minutes left until this flag builds. I think if this flag builds, it should be... It'll spell disaster for Kong as well as GOT, because then they will have to secure this circle throughout the rest of the match until that flag burns.
Yeah, definitely a tough situation here. A map that had so much promise, getting a bit sabotaged here by 13-16. They've got about 4 players on this map. And I'm guessing these are going to be players who are not from 13-16. This is sort of an argument for why you want to have a pickup team and you want to have people from multiple kingdoms on your team, because I mean, yeah, it's just a tough spot for 13-16 and all their allies when only 4 people show up.
You can see Strikebot was just dry swarming this flag. They desperately want to make sure this flag goes down. But somehow, some way, with the teleport and territory disadvantage, DK18 are still able to hold it. I will say it's probably not even a teleport disadvantage anymore due to the flags that they're able to build in the back. And the fact that there is a circle here, meaning that Kong can teleport up, it's probably pretty even teleports now. But nonetheless, DK18 is super impressive right now, pretty much holding off 2 kingdoms. There is some support from Pink on the top right side, as we were talking about, but Pink have to walk from so far away. This is pretty much a 2 versus 1.5 right now, and that 1.5 is currently winning that fight.
Kong just trying to hold on for dear life, get as many points as they can at the Supreme Circle. You do get 5 points per second, which is, you know, quite nice for the first hour or so of these maps. The issue is once people reach the Supreme Spire, it gives you twice as many points per second. And, you know, in a 4-hour long match, that, you know, getting double as many points is just a huge deal. And so it's a lot to overcome if you're the losing side. But, you know, they are fighting inside of Kong and GOT's territory. They can potentially do a bit of cheeseburger in here, or just like defensive fighting and hopefully wear down the opponent first.
I think that's going to be the goal of Kong and God is you look at the powers of DK18 and be like, oh, you know what? They're 100 million power. They're 91 million power. Perhaps we could outlast them. But I believe their powers are not that different, so it's going to be tough from here on out. It looks like the flag will build in 1 minute here. And we'll keep an eye out on this circle, as I think we're going to go ahead and take a look at Group D here. Dirty Dan, do you have any news for us from Group D?
Yeah, so Group D is looking kind of as competitive as the other ones. I think we'll start to see the dust settle on a lot of these maps coming in soon. I will highlight the if we go up to the top left circle, DS did a great job just a few minutes ago of swarming down a couple of the AO77 flags. And just to give the viewers a heads up of what these matchups are, it's pretty much top and bottom are allies, and then the sides are allies. So that's why DS is going against AO77. So they did a really good job there a few minutes ago, swarming down some of those flags to start to secure that middle. And then if we go down to the bottom circle on the left-hand side, I don't know what CLK did. I wish there was a little bit of a playback feature, but they have had that circle and the flags around it for at least 10 to 15 minutes now. They got to that circle probably the fastest that we've seen any team flag up so far, while also fighting Vita. So maybe an approach there where they are better optimizing their flags and have like dedicated build teams and players really buying into that. But I was shocked when I came over here to start trying to browse around, and they had full control of the circle, then all the flags built around it as well. And then right next to them, their allies in POV, to no surprise, really trying to avoid 60 GT for as long as possible. But now GT kind of right on their doorstep here, and I think things are going to start to get a little bit sketchy for the allies of top and bottom, as DS and GT, and then even too on the right, ASMR is quite handily taking on 2715. So things are looking pretty good here for the side matchups.
I will say 60 GT, the allies of 60 GT, DS winning against AO77. It looks like 2715 are going to try to help AO77 in this bottom or top left corner here. So this is going to turn into a 1v2 really quickly, and that should mean ASMR should have free reign on this area here. They should be able to have free reign on this circle if 2715 decide to contest DS. But in the 1v1s, it looks like ASMR, DS, which are allied with 60GT, are winning. And the one matchup where Vita is struggling against CLK, 60GT is just flagging straight towards that to try to help them out.
Yeah, kind of bad news for CLK. I was looking at CLK. This looks like a Spanish-speaking group led by largely 2965. That's a camp or a kingdom that I allied with early this year. They were very good Spanish-speaking kingdom. I believe a lot of their players are from Spain, and it looks like they're mostly leading CLK. CLK they were one of the best recruiters between weeks 1 and 2. They added about 1.3 billion power. And so, they did very well against Vita. They performed very well in the first 45 minutes here against Vita. But I guess it's wishful thinking to think that 60GT is just going to leave them alone.
I think they're preparing for the worst. You could see the flags they're building flags as much as possible to the right side here to try to delay the flag lines of 60GT. We'll have to see how long that'll last, and it's going to be a ticking time bomb of both in this bottom left corner, 60GT coming to this bottom left corner for CLK, but at the same time, DS, how long can they hold on this top left corner against 2715 as well as AO77? Because for the time being, it looks like there won't be any help going to DS, although I guess what they will get as consolation is access to the Supreme Spire, and that's going to be really big for them in case they lose a circle.
Yeah, DS has got to be thinking about that Spire. We thought this was going to be the blowout map, but I think this might actually be the most interesting of the three. Just because, first of all, we have to keep in mind that DS is in KVK. They're in that same fight that 1316 decided to play today instead of this. So they're probably a little bit outnumbered. DS is probably like slightly short of players. And then, it's like, who's going to really go and help them up there? Like, who's really going to go and help them up there? Because Vita is obviously engaged down south. GT, we might end up seeing GT just like spread across the map like we saw them do last week and help everybody. It's sort of starting to shape out that way. But, guys, I'm just thinking about how much it matters, like, who your allies are and how much they care. If you look at like POV, for example, the turquoise team, it's like if they had built fast enough to block GT, then that would have slowed down GT by, 20, 30 minutes. But it almost looks like GT's probably going to be able to flag faster than POV, and that's not going to hurt POV so much, but it's going to hurt POV's ally.
Yeah, and that's going to be really interesting, where it's like, do you keep fighting if you're POV? Because this pretty much shuts you out. You don't have any building path towards Aspire. The circle looks relatively uncontested. You're burning. All the touch points against 60GT are burning. If you're POV, like, what do you do from this situation? Is it, all right, well, we lost, we're going to turn off the game for the rest of the match? Or do they try to keep fighting to at least try to push one of their allies through? That's going to be the real question that they'll have to ask themselves as we get deeper and deeper into this match here. But as you said, I think it's going to be omnipresent 60GT right now, focusing on that bottom left corner, but perhaps also going to try to help out in this top left corner as well. But yeah, you could see DS right now, they are getting fully contested. Although they are holding, and they are actually burning the 2715 flag that 2715 just built. 2715, yet again, they are also fighting ASMR, and ASMR looks like they are burning this current touch point that they have against 2715. So 2715, it's kind of like this weird situation of like, do we continue to try to help AO77? Do we try to build towards the Supreme Spire? Do we try to go towards our own circle against ASMR? There's so many different decisions that they're trying to make, and right now they're kind of spread thin, where all their touch points right now are burning.
I like what 2715 is doing here on a macro level. That this was their opportunity, really. make this a 2v1 and try to help either yourself or your ally get this flag. I mean, really the issue is AO77 in a way. I mean, like they have so few flags. AO77 has built maybe a third as many flags as some of the other kingdoms. They've maybe built a quarter as many flags as 60 GT has built at this point. And, you know, DS is just like heavily infringing upon AO77's territory right now.
AO77, yet again, they were victorious last week, but they were also on the same map as their sister team, GV77, which really helped them, you know, push it through. Now the GV77, we're in a different map, different bracket. It's going to be really tough for AO77. They have to push through DS, but right now, DS, you know, somehow, some way, thwarting both AO77 as well as 2715, or the contingent, you know, marches that are there. I'm going to be really curious to see if the timer of DS will, you know, if AO77 will be able to push through DS, or if Vita will be able to push through CLK with 60 GT's help. I'm curious to see which one will happen first. And it's kind of interesting because there's two timers for both sides, where they're both just trying to hold on for dear life and see what happens.
Yeah, and only one team can hold the Spire, for one thing. For two, at the moment, DS is actually blocking Vita from getting to the Spire. So, you know, it might be that GT goes and helps Vita and does the circle thing with Vita, and that DS just gets the Spire for free. That seems like the easier path for, you know, at this point.
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting that Vita, or the DS, by just sort of wanting to get down. But DS might also join the Vita fight. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like if DS is comfy against AO70 in a 1v2 playing defense, they might be able to stretch out and help Vita down here and make it a 3v1 against CLK. Yeah, it's kind of nice to be the favorite. You get to like have lots of options about what you do, you know?
I think the thing about DS right now is DS, they built these flags because if they didn't, then CLK would have, you know what I mean? So they're just trying to build here so that they could try to get as much territory, as much of a buffer between them and CLK as much as possible, because it'll take a while. Look at how effective CLK have been building towards 60 GT. You have to keep in mind, each of these flags can be back flagged, and they're going to be going piece by piece by piece. It might take them 30 minutes to an hour to even 2 hours to burn through these flags, although these flags do burn a lot faster in Supreme Strife. It will be a tedious process for 60 GT, and perhaps because it'll take a bit longer for them, it'll create more space for CLK to continue to grow their lead. If you look at the points right now, CLK is actually in first place, beating 60 GT by about 200 points. So that's really, really interesting to see if CLK could continue to try to hold their circle and perhaps even try to contest some form of Spire. I think they're also trying to deny the Spire from Vita, because if they deny it from Vita, then they could pretty much be guaranteed top 4. You know what I mean? So if they deny Spire from Vita, if they deny points from Vita, they pretty much guarantee themselves top 4, and they should be able to make it through the map. So it'll be really interesting to see if Vita continue to fight for it and how CLK will hold.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think as long as they hold the circle for the next 75 minutes, right? As long as they hold the circle until there's only 2 hours left in the match, then I think you're right. They probably do almost guarantee that they advance. A lot can happen though. Vita could potentially, you know, with an hour left in the match, Vita could potentially burn through towards the Spire and get there. Flags do build very fast, and flags do burn down very fast. So,
and DS could just delete territory for them as well if they really needed to. So it'll be interesting to see how this match unfolds. We're going to go ahead and watch this flag, see if it builds or if it burns, and then we'll go ahead and transfer back to map 2. This it looks like they're not gonna commit on the swarm here. It was a 98 million power player swarming, so perhaps that's why they decided to pull off. There is 4 minutes
CLK is
left.
playing for the long game. CLK understands that they're going to have to be fighting for the full 4 hours if they're going to advance, or at least for 3+. And they have to convince POV to fight for as long as they can too. But the underdogs here have put all 4 teams on the left side of the map, and that has given them a chance.
It is pretty interesting the fact they probably have a rally up on it. Again, they have 1 minute rallies available in this game mode, I believe. So they should.
I was gonna jump in and ask that. I was curious because that definitely adds to the strategy, and it can definitely speed things up in terms of trying to pop these flags that are building.
They're swarming it again now.
Yeah, there you go. They're probably just trying to get higher powered players to swarm it, or get all 12 marches to swarm it. Have enough open field so there won't be any reinforcements. I'm actually curious. I'm actually curious if they actually have the 1 minute rallies, because that was one of the things I was complaining about most during the Pioneer stage. The fact that it's like 5 minutes to heal a flag, but at the same time it's 5 minutes to launch a rally. So pretty much the flag would heal, and then it'd heal to like 75%, and then you would be able to launch the rally again. But yeah.
The player that they had swarming that was Blue Moon, and he has 367 million power. So a very smart play by CLK there to bring a big whale to swarm down that CY garrison. But I'm hearing in the chat that 481 and 1 are fighting on one of the other maps.
Alrighty, we're gonna go ahead and leave map D. We'll go ahead and I think we've been shifting through the different matches. We're gonna go ahead and see what's going on in map B for now. Map B. So, Dirty Dan, what's been going on in map B thus far?
So I'll give you a quick rundown on the left side. So real quick, because we're probably going to go and jump and focus on that 1 and 489. But real quick on the left side, LLN unfortunately had started to take the 2v1 as 007 kind of came up over them. LLN was engaged with ones while 007 was burning their flags from the back end. Meanwhile, on the right-hand side, we had ones then starting to engage with 489, kind of ignoring WWE and letting them do their thing and kind of recover. But then also, while they were fighting 489, 606 brought up their open field to slow down the flag progression a little bit from ones to prevent them from touching the spire first. So 606 is going to touch the spire in the middle first, due to that play of kind of walking up. And then we do have kind of this 1v1 against 489 in a way where WWE is still kind of poking in and being a nuisance to 489 on those touching flag lines.
This is really interesting. This is perhaps a precursor for KVK. 489 and 606 yet again are allied in that big KVK with 2377 as their opponents. So it's really interesting to see how this map is shaken out from 1v1 in the corners to what is going on here. But it does look like 489 are in a pretty good spot. I think regardless of what happens in the center, the teams that are favored to make it through is going to be ones 606 as well as 489, as they currently have control of those circles. You could see one is actually in first place.
I don't know about ones though. That's my question. 007 has just decided to fight ones, and
That's true.
they're not at the circle yet, but 007 does have the field at the moment. So and ones is backflagging already. They're already backflagging. 007 has a long way to go to get to this circle, but if the big boys on this map are going to engage in sort of like a proxy war where this is not deciding who advances, but maybe this draws some lines in the sand for future weeks. If the big boys are going to be focused on other things, maybe 007 can sneak in there and mess with ones. I don't know if 1 and 1s are connected or not. It didn't look like they have like similar kingdoms or anything. So
that is true. LLN as well as 007 doing this 2v1 against ones. They are the ones in that 1v2, so they are properly named here. We could see that, oh, Fleisch is actually going to be swarming a flag here. Which is, he is in 007 in that 1v2. So this top side is actually going to be contested, as you said. But I think the win condition for ones is if they're able to hold it for, let's say, another hour, they should be able to make it through. With the caveat that 007 as well as LLN will not have control of the Supreme Spire. I'm going to assume that one of 606, 1, or 2489 will have control of that Supreme Spire, meaning that these three teams that are fighting in this top left corner are solely fighting for control of that circle.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Ones, just looking through Ones' roster a little bit, they look like they're a Korean alliance. So even though their name is very similar to One, I don't think they have anything to do with each other. Given that One is more of like a 1875, 2748, 1093 type of team. So, ones might be out on their own there, but in decent shape. And then you just wonder what's going to happen here with, with these big boys in the middle.
I mean, this is going to be really interesting. Dirty Dan, what are your thoughts of the matches thus far? What's been the most interesting match for you to watch? As you've been our main correspondent going through these different matches.
Yeah, I like the way that this map is shaping out. It was a little not dull in the beginning, but I guess like as people were trying to figure out where they were actually going to fight and focus. And I think now that we're getting some pretty legitimate action kind of all throughout the map. And we have some of these kind of big and heavy hitters going at it. And then as it progresses, since this is supposed to be a free-for-all, it's going to be interesting to see if these guys are going to really kind of put the pedal to the metal on the middle. And it does look like 606 is just about to take that spire now. They are swarming it down. So I am going to be curious to see if there's going to be a lot of importance placed on that, or if these guys are just going to be kind of like, yeah, we're all going to push through, and then, let's kind of conserve our strength for these later rounds, because they could be allied with each other next week. Like, we don't know that. And then going through into, I think Group D, where we thought that was going to be a blowout. I think it's really nice to kind of see how we're getting to see some of those 2v1 actions. We're getting to see a little bit here where DS is fighting in a KVK and yet still doing really well in Supreme Strife. So I think it's starting to come together a little bit more as these weeks progress, as we expected. We're going to start to see the action ramp up more and more.
Yeah, you can see that 606 is building towards one. And now it's going to be this three-way fight where if 489 decide to build towards 606, which I don't think they are currently. I don't know if they plan to. I think this is kind of the tricky thing about these free-for-alls, where you have a situation where you're ones and you're thinking you're going to fight LLN straight up, and then all of a sudden you see 007. I mean, they're not allied with LLN because they are burning LLN flags, but they are pushing both LLN and one. So it's like this weird 1v1v1 going on, both in this top left side as well as supposedly the middle here pretty soon.
Yeah, I mean, just thinking about that top side, that top left side a little bit longer. What I think is interesting is that 007 isn't really fighting. They're letting LLN and ones bash each other upside the head. And 007 is just kind of standing around and burning flags. It's almost like they're letting LLN be the meat shield, and they're saving their strength for later on in this map. And I mean, honestly, that's like a really good strategy. Because if you're LLN, what do you do? What do you say? You say, "Can you please fight with us?" But it's like, bro, we're not your allies. Why should we do that? And here they are swarming down another flag. They're trying to burn these ones flags as quickly as they can. they're going to take some damage swarming these Gorgo Hera garrisons. You can see a back flag right behind this one that's going to get up in time. So, you know, 007 is just thinking about how do we get to this circle as quickly as we can. And Ones is just fully immersed in a 1v2 fight right now.
The thing about 007, as well as LLN, they have a timer. They have a timer because if this structure, if this circle is all they're fighting for, if one captures it for 2 hours straight, then there should be no way that either of these teams can make it past, right? Because 2 hours is exactly halfway through the match. So if they're able to and generate points halfway through the match, they should be safe. Well, there's a little bit of time as well because they had to flag there, so they didn't get exactly when the match started. But there's going to be a certain point where we get 2.5 hours into the match where Ones, regardless if they lose their circle or not, should make it through. And as you said, 007 are just desperately trying to burn through these flags. But this is kind of reminding me of a KVK where you back for it, but instead of forwarding, you're just back flagging. You're just going to be, look at the amount of territory they're going to gain. They're going to gain, like, what, 4 teleport spaces? Or they're just gaining territory super, super slowly because of the back flags of Ones. And Ones is just doing the best they can, trying to... Right now, they're kind of focusing on LLN. I assume because LLN is closer towards the circle. You could see that LLN, they have flags a lot closer there. They're kind of... they've been fighting like very, very closely throughout this whole match. But eventually, I believe Ones is going to be split between LLN as well as 007. And it'll be really interesting to see where they choose to focus and how the opponents decide to attack that.
I mean, they've really got to slow them both down at the end of the day. You know, we can keep track of how long it takes one of these flags to burn down. It's been about a minute on one of these flags, and it's already 20% dead. So I feel like, you know, if there were 0 extinguishes, these flags would go down in about 5 minutes. With extinguishes, maybe you stretch it out to like 7 or 8 minutes. But, I mean, how many layers of flags do they really have to get through here? Maybe 5? And then obviously you have to build your own flags as well. So I think it's pretty close. Also, though, it might not be the 2-hour mark, Plato and Dan, because it's not as if Ones captured the circle
like
as soon as the match started. Yeah. Yep.
So it'll be really interesting to see how Ones decides to play this. Because you can see there's a flag right here from 007. Is LLN going to be like, you know, wait, you're right here. Let's go swarm down the flag. Or they're going to be like, oh, this is going to be extra pressure on Ones. Perhaps we could set a double rally on this, even though we're burning against them on this other side. It actually looks like there's kind of a little bit of a truce. There's no touch points right now from LLN and 007 as, I mean, it has turned into a 2v1 specifically because Ones is the one with the circle. But I assume if either of these sides, like LLN or 007, takes the circle, the other side's just going to flip on them right away.
Well, I mean, so here's, I think the reason it's a 2v1 is because Ones is clearly like the favorite right now.
Yep.
I think even after one team takes the circle, Ones is still going to be the favorite for a while because it's going to, like you said, it's going to shift. It's going to shift from like a 2v1 to a true 1v1v1. So in that situation, in a 3-way fight, Ones is going to be the favorite simply because they have so much time already banked. But yeah, it's going to be interesting when that shifts, when these guys start fighting each other. I think with the way the 007 is playing, that means it's going to happen sooner because I just think LLN is going to get tilted by the way their quote unquote allies are doing things.
This is really, really interesting. I will say this flag that they built in between LLN as well as Ones significantly increases they're going to be able to burn the back flag. It makes them super, super close. If this One's flag burns rather, I'm curious to see if LLN will build here or if 007 will build here. this is going to be prime real estate for both sides. They both want to make sure that they get this territory, because this is going to be, once that builds, that's going to be like 2 flag burns away to the circle. So that might be actually where both sides are like, hey, you know what? Like, we got to fight each other, because I'm not going to let you get this circle for free. It's going to be a fight for territory, which is going to be really, really exciting. Let's go ahead and
as we
take
were
a look.
talking,
Yeah.
just a pretty nice hold there at that flag. That one's flag was held very well. Scotty's city was right there. I think Scotty dropped about maybe 15 million power on that defend, it looked like to me. So a pretty good hold for ones there. That's what they have to do. They just have to slow it down.
They have to slow it down indeed. Let's go ahead and take a look at the rest of the map. You can see that 606 directly fighting against 1. Not to get confused with ones. This is 1. You can see 606. So they have control of the Spire. They are building towards 489 as well. 489 have been fighting against 1 in this bottom side here. You can see 1 and 489 have been going at it on this flag hold here. It looks like 489 should be able to hold, and they are, you know, slowly but surely gaining back their field. But I think this fight is kind of a formality at this point, because both of these sides are favored to make it through, especially with 606. Like, this part of the map, these 3 teams should be able to make it through off of points, because Z-Men was a no-show. WWE is pretty much cut off from the circle. And then same thing with 007 over here is not fighting for 606 territory, but rather they're trying to go snipe One's circle here. So 3 of the 4 teams have been decided, and that 4th team is going to be decided between 007, LLN, or Ones, with Ones in the front running spot right now due to the fact that they've been able to capture that circle for this long thus far.
I would add to Plato on that fact. Like, I would be curious, because this is a free for all map. Maybe 606 and 489, if they're able to push 1 back enough, do they let WWE back into this thing and let them build up into the middle, take the Spire, and maybe even take the circle? Because you have to think, if you knock 1 out here, that's a big team that you're knocking out that you're not going to have to worry about in the future. So there might be something down the line that 606 and 489 could potentially scheme. They might keep fighting it as a free-for-all, but maybe allow WWE to sneak through within the next hour or so. It would be interesting to keep an eye out for that.
That would be absolutely insane if they I don't know how that would be. That'd be interesting, because sure, you'd be able to eliminate 1, but at the same time, whenever anyone sees a free-for-all with both those teams, you're going to be like, ain't no way we're doing a free-for-all with you guys. You guys are just going to make sure we don't make it through and ally with this or that. So I think things are probably going to stick to the status quo where those three teams are going to make it through. But as Dirty Dan said, it might be in their best interest, and we'll have to keep that in mind as we continue to scroll through these maps. Talk about Dirty Dan. Let's go ahead and go back to map C, I believe. We're just spectating map B, the free-for-all map. Map C is the map where the allies are kind of all over the place. We got a 3v4 because 1316 are focusing on their KVK. What's been going on thus far in this map?
Yeah, so it looks like this map is also going to kind of get settled. It's a little unfortunate 1316, decided to kind of opt out. OWR slowly getting closed in on. They haven't had a chance to occupy that circle. And then I will say for DK18 on the left, I mean, they've been doing a great job over there. They did lose a circle for a little while there to Kong. Were able to take it back. And as I was looking around with not really much assistance from Pink, so DK18 doing a good job on taking on those 2 teams kind of solo. There was definitely some assistance there, but over the last 10 minutes that I've been watching, there hasn't been a lot of assistance from Pink for DK18. So this map, I think, is more or less starting to settle in, and again, that no-show from 13 is kind of what did in this map here.
Yeah, this has been if anything, the team that's been most impressive has been DK18 for sure. This has been like we were talking about. They had no right to even contest this circle with the positioning advantage GOT has, the positioning advantage that Kong has. But they were still able to take that circle, able to sneak in that one flag, and they've been able to hold it against these two kingdoms with support from Pink, of course. But the fact of the matter is, they were the only ones with teleport positions, so they were the ones taking the brunt of the fight, but they were able to persevere and make it through. And I think the only thing that this 3-team alliance, OWR, Kong, and GOT, the only structure that they could realistically contest would have been this bottom left circle, but DK18 were just able to break through those defenses and just, you know, pretty much make this a complete victory for their side.
Yeah, DK18 looking like they're one of those one kingdom alliances. Not to say that all their players are from 2218, but the vast majority of their officers are from 2218. This is a kingdom that I've seen this number popping up more and more recently. It looks like they've got just under 1 trillion KP. They've got 960 billion KP. They're like a mid to high A seed kingdom. And yeah, I'm not super familiar with 2218. Have you guys played against this kingdom before or know too much about them? I'm just sort of like just learning about them now.
I know Leo's from 2218. I've heard of them. They've been a pretty good A seed for quite some time. But yeah, I mean they're definitely a standout team in this fight here. It's them as well as OG. OG being able to win the 1v1. And that's not really a 1v1. It was a 1.5 because MTR did help out a little bit, but they were still able to get the circle by themselves pretty much with minimal MTR help. But the 2v1 or the 2v1.5 that DK18 were able to push in this map was just super impressive. And I mean, kudos to them. They have 2 circles and they are the team that's top in terms of points. If you want to look at the points here, DK18 at 18k, MTR at 14k, OG at 13k, and Pink at 9.6k. Pink also has control of the Supreme Spire, so they should be generating more and more points. And that means that pretty much in this map, the 4 allies that ally together should be making it to the semifinals next week.
Worth noting before we transition over to map D is that DK18 doesn't have more power than some of the teams they're facing. They have less power than GOT, similar power to Kong. But again, they're like a unified leadership team from one kingdom, you know, making the calls on voice. And I think this is a good example we're seeing where just having more organization, getting people to do the most productive thing they can do, it is paying off for DK18 here, just on the flagging early on. That was really a big deal. And we're seeing on a few of these maps today where if you flag fast and you kind of surround this circle, you do have like a really good advantage that, you know, might be enough to get you to the next round. DK18 didn't need it this time, but we just see like how much more they've done than GOT, even though GOT has more power.
Super impressive stuff from DK18 and their allies. This map should be relatively wrapped up, so we're not going to be keeping tabs on this map too much. We're going to go ahead and focus on map D as well as map B. Talking about map D, Dirty Dan, do you have an update for map D as we get into there?
Yeah, so this map is another one that should be kind of settling within like the next hour or so. I will say DS is still doing an excellent job taking that 2v1 against AO77 and 2715. It does look like ASMR has been able to send a little bit of help over to them. But yeah, DS doing a really good job in that top left corner. And then I think for the rest of it, for the allies on the sides, I think the goal here is going to try to get to Vita to advance, and hopefully GT is going to be able to push through enough because they're going to have to be the ones who offer the help here, not DS. Even though the DS flag lines are right above CLK, but DS has their hands full. So GT is going to have to try and make this push through if they want to get their ally Vita onto the next round. And as I was doing a little bit of a map scan and some, I guess, like checking on how many players are available for Vita, I think I only counted about 18 to 20. So
okay.
Might be due to the timing of the map being open and then being a primarily Asian team, that they don't have the people showing up. But I don't think they're out of this thing just yet. Their allies obviously have the Spire. I think it's going to stay that way. And then I think the main thing to look out for on this map, obviously, is if Vita gets through, and they're just like keeping a focus on what DS has been able to do against two of these teams while they are fighting in KVK as well.
Yeah, DS super impressive. We were talking about the timers, right? Where DS, are they going to be able to hold off, or how long are they going to be able to hold off? It looks like indefinitely against these two teams. They've been really impressive. There is one more flag burn on the 2715 flag. Looks like the AO77 flag will burn as well over here. So DS, being the standout kingdom right now in this map, the ally to 60GT, they've been able to play this 1v2 perfectly here, just playing defensively, only being aggressive when they need to be. And even if they lose that circle, they would have control of the Spire if needed. They have a flag line right next to that Spire. And as you said, Dirty Dan, Vita is going to be that main question. Is it going to be Vita or is it going to be CLK? CLK is, I actually like what they're doing right now. They're trying to cut off the Vita flag lines here, because the only threat they have is if Vita are able to make it to that Spire. But if they're able to cut off Vita as much as possible, it'll really help them so that they could slow down or even deny the Spire take from Vita, allowing them to make it through.
Yeah, really nice play by CLK, taking the fight to Vita, really taking ownership of their own fate in this situation, trying to cut off the Vita flag line and remove the one chance that the enemy has of knocking them out. Vita's going to try and take down this this Gorgo garrison with a QSH rally. Interesting. And not going to work. But yeah, I mean, CLK honestly has done the best flagging of the day. I mean, they have just built an absolute fortress around their circle to the point where, you know, I mean, what are we seeing from GT here? Is GT going to try and have a impact whether Vita makes it through? You know, the thing is, I just think it's such a tough lift for GT at this point, where they have to get through 6 layers of flags to help a team that only has 20 people showing up. I think this is the kind of thing where even a team like GT just sort of is like, hey, maybe we'll just take the afternoon off.
That is true. Because if Vita make it through to the next round, are they going to have another 15 players next match? Like, it's pretty interesting to where you guys were talking about last week, like, what if we make a deal? What if CLK and GT make a deal? It's like, you know what? If we're in the same map next week, perhaps if you make us through, let us get through here, we'll be more favorable to ally with you. There's always these deals that could come to fruition eventually. And as we get to the semifinals, it's going to be more and more stronger teams. We saw, I believe, Brian, you said CLK were one of the teams that recruited the most power. You could see that CLK is a very solid team. They were able to build this territory really fast around their circle and really deny the builds from 60GT. 60GT, I mean, they're probably, I can imagine their voice call. They're probably super bored, just like, you know, they just had a town hall. Now they're playing this, and it's just like, all right, well, we're just swarming down flags and waiting for them to burn, essentially.
You know, I think as we start to think about, like, who do you want to have as an ally in the semifinals? Because I think next week is going to get much more competitive. Not extreme competitive, but some top teams are going to be under threat. Is CLK somebody you want to ally with? Because they're not the strongest. They're definitely not, like, power-wise, they're far from the strongest. But they're organized. They're organized. And I do wonder if you can start in next week. I wonder if you can start to get some teams where you say, listen, are you willing to sacrifice your own chances to advance to just play a team-based game and, you know, just do what we need you to do? You know, like maybe GT has a semi-tough 1v1. CLK happens to be on the same side of the map. And maybe CLK decides to just charge right into GT's opponent and give up their own chances. I mean, those are the kind of, I think those are the sort of plays we're going to start to see next week. And, you know, maybe CLK is the kind of team that wants to do that, or maybe CLK is the kind of team that hopes to advance to the finals. But yeah, you do start to think about stuff like that. You know, who are your allies going to be in the future? Yeah, you know, I think CLK might be in. I think CLK might still be in trouble in this match. You know, go to 221167. 221167. You know, it's basically GT's trying to build a flag towards CLK, and CLK's, you know, they tried to swarm it down. The swarm failed, but yeah, you can see just from moments like this, you see that teams are really still trying. Like none of these teams are like, oh, this is settled at this point. And so GT, like, I don't think this flag is necessarily going to accomplish a whole lot, but just the way that CLK ported there and tried to swarm it down, you can see that they're nervous. You can see that they're nervous.
Yeah, there's a little bit of nerves going on, as for sure. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see if CLK could continue to hold this area here, because it's going to be absolutely huge if CLK can make it through.
I think there'll be a point too where DS knows that they're safe on points, and that they can start to send some players over, since they do have that top
They already
portion that's
are.
kind of right above
Yeah, they already
CLK.
are.
And then they can start pushing down on. So I think it's a matter of time for CLK here until DS feels that they're comfortable enough. And then even if ASMR is able to come over a little bit more and relieve some of that pressure, even more so, then I think we might see DS start to turn and start sending some players down, as they are now. Yeah, there you go.
They're going to start
Yeah, Dan, I mean,
triangulating.
you called it there, where DS is just building their own flags here. They've got their own presence down here, dealing with CLK. CLK all of a sudden dealing with 3 packs that are against them. And really, it's DS that's more of a danger than GT in some ways, because GT has kind of a long walk to get over here, whereas, you know, DS is just right there.
And that's going to be the tough part, man. Everyone's triangulating into CLK's position, because DS, they won their 1v2. 60GT, they won their 1v1. And, you know, they've had... Technically, CLK won against Vita, but now Vita is going to be, you know, available to push whenever they want. I will say at least CLK is trying to burn back Vita, perhaps try to lock Vita, and they're going to just try to deny as many points from Vita as possible, but you could see that there's just 60GT marches now walking through to CLK Vita. And at this point, I think like the leadership of CLK will definitely need to step, well, not step up, but will need to shine here, because there's so many different touch points, so many different things you could focus on. I think if you just go spread out, all the things you try to do is going to be ineffective. But if you're able to focus in, for example, try to focus, burn down this flag, burn down this flag, and you have to keep in mind there's infinite teleports in this as well if you buy the bundle. So if you have the infinite teleports, you could just all teleport here, burn down this flag. It's like, okay, let's all teleport back to Vita, burn down these flags. There has to be a lot of coordination for any chance for CLK to make it through and deny Vita that spot.
Where would you guys burn? Like, if you're CLK, what flag are you burning right here? To me, you got to go like pretty deep. Like, to me, you go as far away from GT as possible.
Yeah.
So you're getting like very close to the start zone. But like the thing is, if you do that, then all you're doing is delaying them getting to the spire. You're not like they can still get to the spire. They just have to build like a different line of flags. It's tough, man. It's honestly tough if you're CLK here. But I just don't think you can be aggressive and take like the most attractive flag out, because that's where the enemy's going to be.
I think what they can do is start pushing Vita as much as humanly possible. Like, they don't need a lot of players to build a flag and then to go swarm some of the flags down. So if they're able to like fully burn Vita out of and push them back into that starting zone, I think that might be best case scenario for them right now. And they have to really utilize that they have unlimited amount of flags essentially that they can use, so, especially since that zone is so small. And then just really try to hunker down on those points where they're getting attacked from DS and from GT. And I think they are starting to do it a little bit on the bottom. I think they're starting to go for some of those baseline flags, even more so down a little bit. You could see them starting to creep in there now. So I think that might be the best approach for CLK here, is to just totally eliminate any Vita flags from being able to pop out.
The only problem for CLK though would be it's really easy for Vita to just flag in the top left corner and just ask DS to burn or, you know, delete some of these flags and just build this way. I do feel like they kind of have to cut off somehow, some way DS, but DS, you could see they brought like a lot of their murder ball here, quite a couple players, and now DS, as we were talking about, is going to be this big thorn on CLK's side. So I don't know what the game plan for CLK would be. I like the play that you're talking about, Dirty Dan, but Vita does have counterplay to it where they could just build up here and just try to, you know, build or try to work with DS to get them towards that spire and perhaps try to start generating those points.
But they're not doing it. Vita's not building in that top left corner. And I think it's because they just don't have many players, right? So like I kind of agree with Dan that like, and I could be wrong here because I always take this conservative approach, but I almost think if you just try to like cut off DS, it's like never going to work, or it's going to work 2% of the time.
Yeah.
Whereas if you just try to like burn Vita at its core, then the thing is then Vita has to like send players over there to defend. Like Vita has a bunch of flags burning now that they have to have cities at to defend and like extinguish and delay. And if you force Vita to put assets at those flags, then maybe they don't build the flags that they absolutely 100% should be building right now. So that's kind of what I would do. But you are like losing a bit of ownership of your outcome in that case, because if Vita simply does like the right thing, they probably do get to the spire eventually. So it is tough, but and also though, Plato, like I don't know, if you push right into DS, like you just lose everything you have left. Like whatever reserves you have left in terms of power, you lose it all in the next hour, and then like you have nothing left for the final 90 minutes, which you know you may or may not be able to use troops in the last 90 minutes, but you'd like to have it once you get to that point.
Yeah, you could see a lot of these CLK players, 88 million power, 86 million power. Like, they're starting to get pretty low on troops. I think it is like, the point for DS would be when they were still focused on AO 77 and 2715, perhaps they could have pushed then. But now it's pretty much too late, and I think that you could see 60 GT are literally building flags in between DS and CLK. I think what the plan is exactly what we're talking about. Look, they're now building that top left corner flag or top right corner flag. I think 60 GT are going to continue to flag through here, make it so that CLK can't they deny the push from CLK into Vita. They're pretty much going to be like a barrier for Vita to make it into this spire. And then that'll allow DS to then delete their flags, give Vita kind of a way to build through to the spire. And from there, it should be GG's for CLK.
Looking rough for CLK for sure. When I was thinking about those top left flags, being a bad flag builder, I didn't think to myself, oh, you can build from both directions at once. And cut how much time it takes. Although it's worth saying that one of these flags that Vita put up has nobody in it, and the other flag they put up has a couple people in it. So, you know, they're taking their sweet time, Vita is, but I guess they're probably feeling fairly comfortable.
They're feeling fairly comfortable. There is still, I believe, 2.5 hours left into this match, so they should be okay. Especially with the help of 60GT. This flag line here for 60GT in between DS and CLK is going to be the big difference maker, in my opinion, because then 60GT cities will be able to just teleport here. They will be able to let Vita just free build. You can see like Vita now starting to build those flags that we were talking about. They're now building behind DS. I believe DS is going to continue to delete flags for them, allow them to get that Supreme Spire so that they could play another game and play another day in the semifinals. But it's kind of tragic for CLK because I feel like CLK played a really good match, but Vita here are, you know, they're getting a lot of help from DS as well as 60GT.
How good was that, the flag line that DS built at the bottom of their territory, the south point of their territory, where earlier I said, oh, they're blocking Vita from getting to the Spire. Like, how good was that flag line? It's unlocked so many things at this point. It's allowed them to attack CLK. It blocked CLK from blocking Vita's route to the Spire. And because that flag line was there, CLK could not put blocking flags in place. That is space that is now going to get filled by 60GT. So it's just a flag line that did nothing for the first 45 minutes, but they built it. They had players over here building it, and now it's like the key territorial choice of the entire map. So, you know, that's just like sort of the optionality that we talk about in various game modes, where like you do certain things just to give yourself more options in the future, and gosh, it pays off more often than people think.
It just having that territory there, and then you could decide what to do with it later. DS, in my opinion, outside of 60GT's pressure, obviously, has kind of been the MVP for their side. Like, they've been playing this 1v2 or 1v1.5. ASMR, as you said, is now building towards them, has been helping them out. But it's gonna be like they've been holding on to this AO77 2715 attack while also building these flags for CLK. We're talking about we were praising CLK for their flag building, but DS were able, I mean, DS are a lot closer, but they were able to get this flag line down, which was absolutely crucial. And now, look, it's going to be very, very tough for Vita to be stopped, because it'll take CLK burning through these flags, and then they'll have to burn through this flag line as well. And I would expect there to be a DS like territory on this side, perhaps, to try to deny and delay the flag burns for CLK. So this is pretty much this whole match has pretty much been a Vita versus CLK who will make it to the next round.
Yep, and you know, just thinking about the next couple weeks, I mean, we had one situation on this map. We had one battle for survival on this map, and we're seeing how many different teams can get involved and make really good plays to influence the outcome. It's not just that DS, you know, built that territory, but like, because everyone has unlimited teleports here, they can shift their army's focus so quickly to a different part of the map. As long as you build to give yourself different areas that you can go to, you can then shift your army's focus very, very quickly. We saw like one team doing it this week, but the truth is, many in a more competitive match, many teams can be making these decisions, going from one place to another. And you know, that's and you know, like, you just can't do that as much in KVK because like the teams are so big that you just don't have all this teleport space to move your entire team in a matter of seconds.
Yeah, and also the lower amount of players makes it so that it's pretty much like an ARC team where everyone's pretty much on voice, or everyone's expected to be on voice in the top of the top teams. so you're more able to, move around and listen to the calls and listen to the leadership whenever it's needed. I remember when I played in the Pioneer stage, they were literally calling players by name. This player, go here. This player, build this flag. Build team, this, and this guy. Join the next flag. So there's a lot more, I guess, connectivity due to the fact that there's less players. And I think it really, you could see the teams that utilize it versus the teams that play it like it's another KBK or another mode. But yeah, we're gonna keep our eyes on Group D. Let's go ahead and look at Group B though. Dirty Dan, what's going on in Group B?
It is starting to get spicy over here. So it looks like one's pretty. They're obviously getting double teamed by 007 and LLN. LLN and 007 have been kind of fighting each other, at least in the open field. And there is an LL flag burning, which is touching 007. So there is by no means is this like a straight up 2v1. I think ones is just trying to withstand the storm here. And if I were them, I'm probably just going to look to play a full defensive once these flag lines start to touch the Supreme Circle and just try to reinforce that thing as best as possible. It might get a little bit dicey because there's probably going to be double rally implications coming for them. On the other side of the map, you have one who is kind of at a stalemate against 489 a little bit. And I think that's due to the fact that WWE is offering a little bit of pressure on their more eastern flag line against one. So one kind of having to split up their forces a little bit, kind of having to play this little bit of back and forth between the two teams. And then I really like this wrinkle now that 606 is now deciding to join the party on the left-hand side against 007, LLN, and ones. So this map, as we kind of expected it being kind of this free-for-all setup, is turning into be a really, really spicy matchup.
We have to keep in mind 007 was supposed to be the matchup that 606 or IN were supposed to fight. So this is a long overdue fight. 007 tried to do something different because I believe that they probably didn't think that could fight the IN head to head. But yeah, you could see IN saying, you know what? You guys are bullying ones over here. You're supposed to be fighting us. We're just gonna go up to you guys instead. We're just gonna go up to you guys, and now you gotta focus on us while you're also attacking ones.
I'm glad you made that point, Plato, before I started talking about this decision by 1606, because that is a fair point that they're kind of getting revenge for 007 dodging their fight. But they're ruining the storyline for us. I mean, we had some really good drama here with ones trying to hold on. And I mean, I think it's safe to say that 1606 shifting up here means that ones is going to advance. I mean, this is just enough pressure that 007's push is going to be completely stalled. And I don't think LLN has enough by themselves to push into ones. So, I mean, yeah, I guess it's fair. It's fair enough, though. It's like, you screw us, we'll screw you. But,
It is probably.
I don't know how you guys feel about it.
Ones is probably like super relieved that there's someone attacking 007, putting pressure on them. It looks like 007 though, they're just gonna backflag. This isn't gonna be too big of a problem for them. They're just gonna have some builders build the back flag and just continue to send all of their open field marches towards the one flags.
They're swarming 2 ones flags right now.
Yeah, they're double swarming flags, which is kind of crazy. But then you could see there's another flag being built right behind the flag. Can you imagine if you're a builder just looking across the way and your allies here are just getting burnt right next to you? But yeah, you can see that they are trying to hold as much as possible, but 007, they're not gonna pay attention to IN. That has been their strategy this whole time. And they're just going to continue pushing on towards ones and their circle here.
Yeah, and we'll have to see what 1606 decides to do. They have the potential to form a very big ball and just move to this fight that we're looking at now. They can come over here and impose their will on this fight. And they could even just stand here and help ones defend. But, you know, at the same time, 1606, I think like they don't want to do anything too crazy here, just because when these top teams look at each other and say like who is likely to ally with each other in the finals, let me know what you guys think, but I think that maybe 1606 and 1489 or 2049 seem like the most natural of allies, just because they're allies in KVK. You know, like it just makes sense that they would work together as Strife goes on. And that puts a target on their back. That puts a target on the back of both of those kingdoms. So maybe they don't want to necessarily like really upset 007. They don't really want to like fully side with ones versus these other groups. I'm not sure that that even matters, but I mean, how do you guys think 1606 should handle things from here?
I think 1606 from what I'm seeing is they're just having fun. They're like, all right, well, we were supposed to fight 007 and now we're just gonna fight 007. I mean, they do have touch points at 1 as well. I'd assume that they're just gonna go through here and then just demolish all of the people here. They're gonna be like, all right, we're gonna fighting 007 now, and then they're gonna be fighting ones, and then they're gonna be fighting LLN, and just, you know, take this area for themselves is essentially what I'm thinking. But it is pretty interesting that the fact that you say 606 and 2049 is going to be the most natural of allies, perhaps due to the fact that they're allied now, also due to the fact that they're allied in that upcoming KVK against 2377. The question is, will they be in the same map next week? Because there's going to be 2 maps. We started with 8, now we're at 4. Next week in the semifinals, there's going to be 2. And the 2 maps we'll have to see if they're going to be placed on the same map or not. And that would be a pretty interesting, I think the allies and you know, the shenanigans of next week is going to be super, super interesting, because we kind of have a picture of who's going to make it through in each of these maps. For example, for map B, we have for sure IN's going to make it through, 489's going to make it through, 1 is going to make it through. And from what it looks like ones is also going to make it through as well, although that's not completely determined because their circle is getting pushed through. In the 60 GT map, we see 60 GT that's going to make it through. We saw 2377 make it through on their side. So it'll be really interesting to see like all those top teams, who they decide to team up with, and if you're in the same map as a top team, because we haven't seen, outside of these 2 teams, and these 2 teams aren't even allied. We haven't really seen 2 of the same teams in the same map outside of 2 of the top teams in the same map, because that's just the way the matchmaking works. I think in the semifinals, that's going to be the first instance of that. And it'll be really interesting to see if those 2 teams decide to fight each other, if they decide to ally up and guarantee their spot to the finals.
It's definitely going to be interesting. Lore from 1606 in the chat saying, I think y'all are taking Strife a lot more serious than we are. Yeah, I mean, I think to Plato's point, I think we'll find out next week, right? We'll find out next week how serious teams are taking Strife based on the matchup, right? Are we going to see very fair matchups, or are we going to see one side having a nice advantage over the other? You know, I think that will determine how serious these teams take it. You know, at this point in Strife, yeah, there's no reason for these teams to take things seriously. 49 and 1606 both had easy wins last week. They have another easy win this week. GT has, you know, dominated both of the maps they've been on. 2377 has looked very, very strong. But, you know, if we posit that 2377 is the favorite, how hard are these other contenders going to compete against 2377 in the last 2 rounds? We'll see, man. I think things can get serious pretty quickly. Oh, but again, I guess Lauren in the chat is kind of reiterating what I just said. It's fun for now, but maybe the finals will be different.
Dirty Dan, what do you think the finals or semifinals and finals matchups are going to be? Do you think it's going to be all the top teams saying, you know what, we're just going to, these are good rewards, these are cosmetics, or we're just going to ally up together and call it a day? Or do you think there's going to be some real potential for fights of like 2377 versus 960, or, you know, like, do you think there's going to be those big fights that people want to see, or is it just going to be all the top teams allying with each other?
I think there's a couple ways that it can shape out, and obviously this is going to be from, you know, Lilith's matchmaking committee. I do think that the point that you guys made about 606 and 489 kind of having a target on their back right now as we progress through these rounds, because they're the teams that have the most mutual interest going into this, right? Obviously, because they're allied in this upcoming KVK. And then I also think, like, you know, maybe we get a situation, and we would have to look at the power rankings and see, but like maybe we get a situation where one map is all of the big teams. Like we see Lilith throw in 2377, 606, 1, and put all of the highest powers on one map, and then on the second map have a little bit of the smaller powers go in. That way, when you come into the finals, it might be a little bit more even in that sense. Just very rough brainstorming there, so that might not make sense. I don't know. I'm just kind of topping off the top of my head here, but I do think that as we progress through these rounds, it is going to get more serious, 100%. I mean, these players have lost, you know, hundreds of thousands, if not a couple million troops already in these first two rounds. Like, they're gonna want to go and get those rewards that they feel that they deserve, because they've already started losing troops throughout these weeks. So things are definitely going to ramp up and get very interesting, and I'm very excited to see what the matchmaking is going to bring us for the semifinals.
Yeah, one thing is these teams, a lot of these top teams, 2377, 606, and 2049, they're in the same KVK. Chat saying that they will be in Zone 5 for the finals of this event. So we'll have to see if they continue to commit the same way they have been, or if this is going to be... I think the success and the hype of the event will depend on how much they really want to focus on this compared to their KVK. Like, are they going to be willing? Are they going to be willing to sacrifice 4 hours with a lot of their top players to play this event when they have a Zone 5? But to be fair, Zone 5s are not the most crucial zones in KVK. But at the same time, it's KVK, and that's been the mode that's been the most serious. The mode everyone plays Rise of Kingdoms for. So it'll be interesting to see how each team decides to either focus or decides to play the Supreme Strife. We'll have to see how that shapes out.
I mean, if 2377, 2489, and 1606 are all in the Supreme Strife finals, then they can just do a truce for 4 hours in KVK and play this thing. I mean, that's not a hard thing to pull off at that point. But yeah, and so like you said, Plato, just depends on how serious the top teams take this. I do think there's like a lot of outplay potential on this map. I think one side can really just play better than another side and get the win. And I think that's like the reward. Really, I mean, if you can outplay another group of allied kingdoms who are trying to beat you on a brand new map, I think that's a very good flex, right? So in that sense, that's the reward. But obviously, if they decide to play KVK instead, that really neutralizes the flex.
Yeah, we'll have to see how it breaks down. You can see ones, they are slowly burning. But 606, they are continuing to build into 007. I would assume ones is going to... How long do you think ones could hold this circle with how things are progressing right now? You could see a lot of their players getting teleported out. There is LLN flags being built. What's the timer right now for ones on this Supreme Circle, Brian?
Well, I'm just looking around at 1606. They haven't really walked over here. I I mean, right now, One's numbers. I'm kind of impressed with LLN's ability to sustain this fight for many hours. I think One's has got another. I honestly think they probably have like 25 to 30 minutes, because I do think there's a chance that 1606 comes over here, and I do think there's a chance that once we get to this circle, it's not going to be clear who gets it, and it's really going to be a three-way fight. So I think they go for another 25 minutes.
You can see there's already a touch point. This LLN flag, and when this flag builds,
Oh wow, okay.
they will be touching this circle. So that's going to be a really, really big point for LLN. LLN, they might actually be able to make a little bit of a comeback here. They have 0 points right now because Ones has had this circle throughout the entirety of this this fight thus far. But now LLN, they are touching. 007, they're still rather far away. You can see they have 1, 2, 3 flags currently that they need to burn through. There's also another flag over here that's untouched, so that's another flag that they would need to burn through. And this is smart by LLN. They're pushing up and to the right and not burning the flags that are touching the circle here. And they're just saying, hey, you know what? You could continue to burn through those Ones flags. We're just gonna burn the flags that benefit us. And it's gonna be really interesting because Ones has not made it to that point where they automatically make it through to the next round based on the amount of points that they've gained. There's a chance if LLN are able to hold the circle for long enough, make back some of the points from Ones, that they could actually be that fourth team to make it out.
Hey guys,
Oh,
just
yeah.
just a quick update from Group D, where we were watching CLK and if Vita was going to be able to get through to the Spire. Vita is now building up to the Spire. It looks like CLK is kind of like laying off a little bit and just kind of going with the flow, because they are going to get burned through. DS and 60GT touching them. So Vita is making a play for the Spire now. I would say they're about 4 flags away from that.
Yeah,
Not much action going on, but they are making a play.
Let's take a look at that. So yeah, you could see Vita. This is exactly what we were talking about earlier, is the fact that, oh, this is actually smart from DS. They didn't even have to delete the flags exactly. They kind of made this nook where Vita can safely build flags in between their territory, just literally escorting the flag line of Vita. And yeah, there's just one more flag here, and that's going to be secure flag line. Now you can see that there's flags coming from DS, trying to make their way down to the flags of CLK. And this is going to look dire for CLK really, really soon here, because CLK, there's still 2 hours left of this matchup, and CLK, they're going to start losing points to Vita, because Vita will start generating those 10 points per second. And the more and the longer this takes, the longer that Vita holds that Supreme Spire, the more tough it is for CLK, especially because CLK's territory is getting pushed by 60GT, and we're assuming it's going to be an inevitability that this circle is going to be going down from CLK.
We can see how close this whole situation was by doing some quick maths. Once Vita captures the Spire, they're going to get 10 points per second. That's 36,000 points per hour. Now, CLK is still going to hold the circle, so they're going to be getting 18,000 points an hour. So if they hold it for 2 hours, if Vita holds it for 2 hours, they would gain 36,000 points compared to CLK. At the moment, we see that CLK is at 28,000 points. So if they get this Spire in the next 10, 15 minutes, they'll have enough points to advance. But you can see that it's close. Like, you can see that this was a pretty close situation. And CLK just, they're going to probably die by the clock here.
Do you think they'll be able to get the Spire in 15 minutes? I mean, how long does it take for these guys to build these flags? I think that's going to be the main question. I think it's like 4 minutes if it's fully built.
That's got to be their main focus right now. They got to optimize these flags, get them building as fast as possible. Don't even worry about fighting. You have DS and GT here to help you with that. So I wouldn't even focus too much on fielding at this point. If you're Vita, everything has to be all in to go build those flags. Like to Brian's point, it's going to be so close.
Vita, they already have the flag builders coming out. Unfortunately, it is one march per person
Same
that
guy.
can go in the flag.
Yeah.
So that's not going to help out too much. But who would have thought that a match would come down to who builds the flags faster here? But that calculation is if CLK are able to hold the circle for the rest of the game, right? So that's going to be a big if as well. If CLK is going to be able to do that, because CLK, they are getting absolutely surrounded by troops. They're getting absolutely surrounded by players to the point where I'm sure that for a lot of these garrisons, they're running that Heraclius primary so that you could use your siege in the garrison. It's going to be pretty tough for CLK, but we'll have to see if they could continue to hold on here. What are your predictions of this match? I guess we could start with Dirty Dan. Do you think it's going to be CLK or do you think it's going to be Vita?
I think it'll be Vita. I think there's just too much support around them from their ally teams, from DS and 60GT, and as long as they don't slack on the flag build, then they should be fine. If they don't get it due to slow flag building, might go down as like one of the biggest blunders of this entire tournament.
I mean, Vita has felt a bit like that ally you have in KVK where like you have to tell them to do everything. It's like build here, put the fort here, like please show up on this day, do you have any garrisons that you could put into one of these flags, please? Give us R4 so we can swap your they've felt like that team all day, but it's like at the end of the day, you kind of do have to you get a lot of value from babysitting certain groups. And, sometimes people need handhold, and it is what it is in Rise of Kingdoms.
I think one point that we didn't talk about is technically if DS really wanted to, they could give Vita their circle. So if they really wanted to, they could make it 15 points per minute, which would definitely make them over CLK. So that's going to be really, really tough for CLK because it's not even the Supreme Spire you have to worry about now. It's going to be, oh wait, there's going to be that circle that they have control of as well, and it's going to be, oh well, what can we do from there at that point?
Yeah, we had a similar situation last week. I forget what team it was, but there was a team that had control of the circle the whole time. It felt like they were going to win, or they were going to advance, and then halfway through the match, we realized, oh wait, the other team has such control of this map that they can give their fourth place team so many points so quickly, and then whatever team that was advanced. And I think it's just a similar situation here for CLK, but it looks like things are popping off over on map B.
All right.
Yeah, map B update. LLN has now touching that circle of ones.
Were they able to take it yet?
They just finished the flag build, so I would assume within the next couple minutes or so they're going to look for an attack going there. And I believe 606 not really doing too much. They are burning some of the flags at 007, but it's not too much the effect that it'll take 007 out of this thing. So ones is still kind of under some pressure here.
We are back at this crazy 1v1v1 v1v1v1 where ones is over here trying to hold off against both LLN as well as 007. 007 is trying to just pretty much ignore IN from deleting their flags, and then IN is just having fun attacking one as well as 007. And then 2049 is just fighting one, where one is defending against 606, 2049 as well as WWE for fun here. So it's just been absolutely chaos this match, but it's been fun to watch as one's over here. They have the touch point, they're trying to hold the open field, and I mean, there's going to be a timer for these guys. LLN, they got the touch point now, but now they have to take and hold the structure for quite a amount of time to make sure that they're able to surpass ones in terms of points.
A couple of things to think about here, both factors that are favoring ones. First of all, the capacity on this circle is very big. I believe it's 3 million troops in this thing. They've got the Harrow ISS in there. So this is not an easy structure to take down. We've seen some very, very painful swarms on this structure in the past. The other thing is, even if LLN takes this circle, how do they hold it for 2 straight hours? Because they not only have to hold off ones, but then what does 007 have to say about all this? I mean, did 007 flag all the way here just to watch some other kingdom advance instead of them? I mean, 007's probably just going to try to take it and score some points just for like respectability even. And that alone could completely screw LLN here. So still looking pretty good for ones.
It is going to be pretty tough for... Because, yeah, 007... that's exactly what I was saying earlier, is that as soon as one of these teams takes the circle from ones, they're going to be public enemy number 1. Because now 007, for example, if LLN takes it, 007 will be, all right, we're going to start burning the 007. They're going to start burning the LLN flags. We're going to start attacking LLN, and that's going to be really, really interesting. And then there's just this looming threat of potentially 606 just coming through as they are now. You can see 606 now coming through, having some fun. They're like, all right, well, this is where the camera is. Let's just... This is where the action is. Let's just try to see what we can do. And the fun thing about this is there's no allies, so they're just going to open field and attack anyone they see.
I like coming in on the circle now. Looks like an Attila Subutai rally. And they're going to take a shot at it.
Attila Subutai, some
but
decent
one's
anti-swarm.
one's has a lot of presence, big time one's presence here. They are definitely feeling good about their situation, and they have swarmed down this rally immediately. And really, if anything, they have LLN outnumbered at this circle right now.
Yeah, I think they were playing possum a little bit there. Well, as LLN and 007 was crashing in on them, and now that it's, hey, like push comes to shove, like, hey, no, we're actually still here. We're still fighting. It's just we couldn't really do much against 2 of you guys, and yeah, it does look pretty favorable for ones in this situation. And here comes 606.
We see 606 coming through the behind LLN. This is gonna spell disaster for the push of LLN. And 606 saying, "Hey, we want to play too. We're gonna have some fun here. Perhaps a precursor, some practice for KVK that they're gonna be fighting soon." As you could see that they're now starting to go into this murder ball. And this is a perspective of 606. Everyone's just a white march. Everyone's just going to be a march to be attacked. So whether you're 007, whether you're ones, whether you're LLN, we're just going to be attacking you guys. And you can see that there's a lot of LLN players that were like, all right, time to strategic retreat. Some LLN players were left behind. They're like, we'll hold the door. You guys leave without us. And ones over here, they're like, oh, well, you know what? The touch point, the people that are touching us aren't even here anymore, so it's gonna walk home.
Yeah, it looks like 606 wants to take over this circle, this spot on the map that 3 packs have been fighting for hours. 606 just wants to walk in, and they might just chill here and gatekeep this thing. That's where the fights are going to be if they stay here. Why would they? If they want fights, why would 606 move anywhere else? So this might play into one's favor, even though they're getting wiped at the moment.
That's exactly what I was going to say. This is actually to one's benefit. If the status quo is 606 takes it and they get more points, so one's is like, all right, well, that means both LLN and 007 won't gain any points. That means that we'll be able to keep the lead, and we'll be able to keep the top 4. By the way, let me go ahead and show the code for the redeem code here. This is going to be the redeem code. Shout out to everyone watching on the official Rise of Kingdoms channel. The redeem code is QBSXAQXPBY. So QBSXAQXBPBY. Okay, I messed that up, but it's on the screen. I'll keep it up there for 10 minutes, and then I'll have Dirty Dan or Brian scream at me every 20 minutes to put it up there.
Right, yeah. I shared the code in Discord chat if one of you guys want to copy paste it. I can't copy paste it myself because I'm on my burner account and I don't want to reveal that to YouTube. So.
Alrighty, there you go. Be sure to get the code. I didn't get to put in the code last week, so I actually don't know
Well, yeah, and you were curious about what it was, so I'll tell you what it is this week. 100 gems, 3 crystal keys, 9 hours of training speed ups, and a little bit of other stuff. So, decent one. Decent one.
That's not bad, actually. You'll take that. But yeah, you could see
we
that.
always fill out the redeem codes. Always.
All right, let's see. Yeah, so this murder ball fight has literally just been reset by 606. They're like, all right, everyone, you go home. You guys reset. Kind of made more time for ones to hold their stuff. You can see ones is repairing their flag against 007. Now 606 is gonna have a touch point against ones, but ones would take that, to be honest. So they would rather give up the circle to 606 compared to any of the opponents of 007 and LLN. And that's the most interesting part to me for Supreme Strife is like, sometimes it's not we want to outright win. Sometimes it's like we're playing to not lose. We're playing to be top 4. So
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. And some of these less heralded teams that get to advance to the semifinals next week, whether it's Pink or Ones or whoever it may be, they then get to interact with the top teams in the game. They get to be a factor in whatever happens next week with the top teams in the game. They get to work with GT or with GV77, whoever it may be. And I mean, personally, I think that would be a pretty exciting thing, right? To be able to coordinate with some of the top leadership groups in the game and have fun on like a 4-hour map. Sounds like a lot of fun to me. So it's cool that, you play well. Sometimes you just advance.
that's all you gotta do to advance. There's LLN. There's just like one player. Quack's just staring at the rally. And I think all these teams are having fun because with the presence of 606 being here, I think that kind of freezes the points, at least for now, where ones should be advancing above LLN as well as 007, which to be fair is kind of deserved. They are playing this 1v2 for quite some time. They're able to play it out, and looks like 606 is now here to take the circle, but at the same time kind of allow ones to win here. If we look at the rest of the map, it is pretty much the same thing where 4 at 9, they have control of their circle, so they'll be making it through. 606 have control of their circle as well as Aspire, so they'll make it through. Oh, you could actually see that 007's like, you know what, we're going to start building towards your flags now, 606, because you're building towards the circle that we wanted. This flag getting swarmed down here by 606, but there are a lot of 007 marches. Are they actually going to be able to refill it though? It's getting super low. Oh my goodness. And the 606 were able to burn down that flag, and that's kind of you can see a lot of them teleport in. That's kind of the teleport advantage that we're talking about, where you could just pour it in wherever you need to, put that pressure in whenever you need to.
Yes, 1606 is all over the map. They're fighting 007, where you just showed. Obviously, they're fighting at that circle. There's also a bit of a group fighting against one at their touch point just north of the Spire. Looks like Peace and a few others are over there trying to assault a flag being held by Abu Hind and others. Plato, what do you think about this 1606 team? Because when I look at the R4s of this team, you've got Chadsky as the R5, you've got and you've also got players, they're not R4s right now, but you've got players like Peace, you've got players like Fluffy Pony, Addy. These are former teammates of yours, and what I would say were part of the brain trust of 2268 back in the day. What do you think about 1606 these days?
I think this mode is a good kind of indicator of the kind of power hike that 606 has gotten within their past migration. They got a lot of good players. They got a really good migration in a lot of 960 players that went over there too. There's a group of 960 that went over there. and they're going to be a really strong kingdom. I think this is going to be a good precursor of their current power level in their KVK. And some people are seeing them as like, one of those top kingdoms now where, there's the 1093s, the 2377s, but right under that, you could put the 606 right there if you wanted in the third slot. It's unproven right now, and I think it's going to be proven, or we'll have to see with this next KVK. But they're definitely a very solid team and a very solid kingdom, as shown with their results in Supreme Strife thus far.
Yeah, I didn't realize that so many former players from this group that I was familiar with, the Chadsky, Peace, Addy, Leroy Bunny type group, I didn't realize so many of them had migrated to 1606. And, my experience with them was that when they came to 2268, they helped you guys a lot. They really made you a much better kingdom in...
Oop, hello? It's a bit of a Discord lag again. But yeah, it is pretty interesting because I've played with a lot of these players twice even in 960. So it's kind of like it's kind of like I've seen them in two different environments. And I mean, 606, I think it's good that 606 is another strong kingdom that kingdoms like 2377 and 1093 perhaps could look towards to say, hey, you know what, that's going to be our next matchup, especially with the downsizing of 960. So, but yeah, I think this map is we're pretty good to go on this map. We could see that there's 606 coming into ones here, in this top left side, but a lot of people have been asking for map C. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at map C. Map C was actually kind of determined pretty fast, but we'll go and take a look at map C regardless. Are you guys back?
I do have a quick update. Can you hear me?
Yep, here I can hear you.
Okay. So just a quick update from D. I know we're going to C, but D, Vita is 3 flags away.
Okay,
So the flag race is still on.
Let me take a look at map D for a bit. Is Vita trying to go? They are also trying to go for the circle. So they're going to go for the Supreme Circle, and they're going to go for the Spire. So that should guarantee Vita to make it through to the next round.
Yep.
But yeah, that's gonna kind of close it for map D. Map C. Let's see where map C is. It's funny, we're talking about 2068. The account that I'm spectating from is actually still in 2268. So let's go ahead and see map C. Map C, the reason why we haven't been spectating this is because the result was kind of dictated, or was kind of shown 1 hour into the map, where DK18 were able to take this bottom left circle, which was contested by their opponents, Kong as well as God. These two opponents, they should have had a flag advantage, but somehow, some way, DK were able to actually build a touch point onto this flag without any flags contesting them. So DK, as you can see, they're having a celebratory flag build party here, where they're just building every single flag possible. But yeah, DK were able to win that bottom left corner. Also, the allies of Kong as well as God and OWR in 1316, they no-showed. So MTR were able to help out OG. OG was actually winning that 1v1 against OWR for quite a bit as well. But OG were able to take that bottom right corner, and then the top was essentially uncontested because Pink and DK18 are allied, and then MTR had an uncontested circle from 1316. So the teams that are making it out this week from Group C will be DK18, Pink, MTR, as well as OG. As you can see from the points per minute here, you can see that DK18 are in first place at 55k, Pink is at second place at 46k, MTR in third place at 32k, and then OG in fourth place at 31k. And that means their whole coalition is going to be making it forward to the semifinals.
It looks like a lot of pickup teams from this map. Really, I mean, pretty interesting, honestly, that, 13-16 is out, OWR is out, and a bunch of pickup teams, along with DK18, are advancing. Spring from 2650 in the chat is from the team Pink. It does look like 2650, which is a German kingdom. They are part of the leadership team here from Pink. And they're another kingdom that's in that big KVK. So, if they advance further, hopefully we get some kind of a truce during Zone 5 and make the finals of this great. But yeah, pretty interesting that it's a lot of pickup teams on this map, and they will certainly add a wrinkle to next week. OG, another team with a lot of power, that just has players from all over on it.
Yeah, so we saw those 4 teams are going to make it to the semifinals. In this map, it's looking like IN 489, LLN, ones rather, and one are going to be making it through. LLN, they tried to make it through. They had the touch point. They were right there at the circle, but unfortunately for them, they weren't able to push through the one's defense here. And now the fact that 606 is up here essentially saying, hey, you know what? You guys don't get to you guys don't get to fight anymore. And they're going to be taking control of the circle, which should be to one's benefit because that'll deny the points from LLN as well as 007.
Yeah, definitely. This was the best fight, though. I think Group B. I think this is.
Yep.
They certainly made it interesting all day long. And in this case, it's the team that grabbed the circle first that's going to hold on. I mean, it sort of gives you a sense of why CLK did the right thing by just grabbing the circle early and flagging around it, because in another world where there were not strong allies, CLK might have held on, but one's just benefited from the fact that this was ultimately just a free-for-all map.
A free-for-all map indeed, and it was super entertaining. But yeah, you could see that everyone, I mean, I think this was to be expected. Maybe one's winning against LLN and 007 was kind of a big shock where they were able to win that 1v2. But at the end of the day, one's, they kind of deserve to make it through. And again, the teams that will be making it through in Group B will be one's, 489, as well as IN. So all those teams will be making it to the semifinals next week. Let's go ahead and go to Group D while we're wrapping things up here, because all the maps seem to be pretty much settled here. There goes Supreme Strife. Let's go ahead and go to Group D. This is the 60GT group where we're looking at CLK. I think the only thing really that's up for grabs that we don't know for sure is if Vita will be able to build fast enough, but they should be able to. With the point generation, they'll be generating 15 points per minute. If anyone wants to do the math on that, Brian, do you want to do the math on 15 points per minute for Vita?
15 points per minute, sure. I'll give you like 90 minutes on that. So it's going to be 900 points a minute, and if they do it for 90 minutes, that's going to be 81,000 points. Does that sound right? Yeah, 15 points per minute. Yeah, they would get 81,000 points if they hold a circle and a spire for 90 minutes.
Times 60.
And that's just way too hard to overcome.
Yeah, that is correct. Wow. There is so many points on the board then right now available for Vita. You could see that CLK, they're only at 35k. And that the points for CLK could actually stop generating if 60GT continue to push through. So, I mean, I would assume that the teams making it through, for sure the top 3 are going to be 60GT, ASMR, DS, as well as Vita. Although right now CLK looks like they're slowly but surely, losing the lead. We have to see if Vita actually build these flags, but I don't see any reason for Vita not to make it through. Do you guys?
No, I think that they should get this, and I think it's the right call too to send them up to the circle, because at the end of the day, you do kind of want to conserve going into these later rounds. And DS and 60GT, especially for DS fighting in a KVK right now. Like they're not going to want to keep, stretching themselves out too thin. So I think this is the smart play as a team to get Vita up to that circle, generate more points. Because again, if you were just giving them the Spire and you weren't able to get down to that circle, then maybe, you kind of leave a little bit of a wiggle room for COK to still kind of stick it through. But I think by giving them the circle, it kind of puts that nail in the coffin, and it allows 60GT and DS to kind of take their foot off the brakes a little bit and conserve some troops.
Conserve some time as well. Just, sit back, relax.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that is going to be Group D. We're going to go ahead and take a look at Group A as well. Group A actually played at 10 UTC. This is a GV77 group. So we could take a look at Group A and how that turned out. You can see GV1 is going to be making it through. BTA is going to be making it through. PW67 is making it through. And 2748 is also going to be making it through. And DRGN as well as ZOW, Swim, and ET18 were the teams that were not able to make it through in Group A. But we're going to go ahead and go back to the booth, get some final thoughts of the match here. I guess we could start off with Brian. What did you think of the quarterfinals this week?
Well, Plato and Dan, I think we're getting there. I think we're getting there in terms of exciting matches, but we're still not quite there yet. What we really saw this week was good decisions being made in terms of territory building and then also like how you distribute points amongst your team. And I think it's cool that we have a game mode where those things are those things by themselves can make for an interesting competition. But I think we're still waiting for close enough fights where we really see the combat side of it. Like one team making better decisions from a combat perspective, and that being what is the difference in the match. We saw it a little bit with that 1v1v1 involving ones and a couple other packs. In that situation, they really did try to sustain themselves for multiple hours, and they did kind of a decent job of that. They were able to keep fighting into the third hour, but we're still not quite there yet where like the combat is what decides who wins.
Did he, Dan?
Yeah, I agree to all of Brian's points. We're and again, this is the first kind of rendition of Supreme Strife, so I think we do have something like special on our hands here in terms of like a fresh game mode. Obviously, like as we kind of moved from last week to this week, we saw it kind of ramp up, and an hour and a half to 2 hours in, kind of like knowing and deciding who was going to take it, as opposed to last week was like maybe about an hour and a half. So as these rounds progress and we get into like the bigger and the bigger teams, it's definitely going to get much more interesting, and semifinals and finals are definitely going to be a treat to watch.
If you enjoyed the content, be sure to subscribe to this channel, the official Rise of Kingdoms channel. We have the semifinals as well as the finals of Supreme Strife coming up, as well as the Grand Prix. So be sure to subscribe. We'll catch you guys next time. And if you like the commentary from the three of us, our channels are also in the description. We got Dirty Dan, Brian Koo, and Plato Gaming. We'll see you guys next time. Peace.